Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ, Addison, back to flip the script on yesterday. It feels like yesterday, just because talking to Addison is so stressful that it feels like it takes an entire week. So it feels like just yesterday that we did this show. Oh, we have news based on last week's show, by the way. But first, I'll finish the thought I started, which you see is clearly a bit of an issue with me. Last week, we did 3 players we were looking to buy based on what their prices seemed to be. So clearly, flipping that script, we're going to be talking about 3 players we are looking to sell based on their current prices. But before we do get started, I love that there was a lot of positive reaction to our trade talks at the end of last week's show. I thought it was so much fun to do. From what I was told, because there's no way I watch me do me things, but like I was told that Addison left most, seemingly, if not all, of our talks in there.
I think I left the whole thing in.
Nice.
Maybe I cut there's a part where we both kind of were just like thinking for like 15, 20 seconds. I might have just shortened that, but yeah, I basically left the entire thing in.
Yeah, that doesn't count. I'm talking about like cutting out words and stuff like that. Cutting out, you always cut it. Like I always joke saying I don't edit my podcasts at all, but I will scroll through and take out large gaps of silence. That doesn't count as editing to me. That just makes it listenable. So like I saw a bunch of the comments that were good reactions. I had 1 or 2 people reach out to me saying that they thought it was fun, which I love because I thought it was a lot of fun. But also, more importantly, thank you everyone, because the Waddle side won the vote, and very begrudgingly, Addison sent me that offer for me to accept. I believe the comment was something along the lines of "I hate you and I hate this trade," or "I hate you and I hate everything," or something
like that. Yeah, it definitely had "I hate you" in it. And
yeah,
I don't know, and something. I don't know if it was this or everything or I don't know, but I don't hate it. I didn't hate the trade. It was tough giving up a first on my end. So for anybody who didn't know from last week, we basically did a segment where Russ and I are in a league together. So we basically just built out the trade. The trade ended up being I was sending away Tank Dell and a 26 first for Jalen Waddle and a 25 second. And then we threw it out there that whichever side won was the side that I would have to take on in the trade. So if more people voted for Tank Dell, then I wouldn't accept the trade, and more people voted for Waddle, I'd have to accept the trade. It was close. It was like 20-15, I think, whenever I sent the trade over yesterday. And then we got one comment overnight saying Tank Dell side, and I was like 20-16. But that's whatever. It's fun. And I have Jalen Waddle on my team, so I'm not ultimately that
exactly mad. That's the real good part of this. We're both pretty happy because we both like the players involved, and I got a first out of it, and you're a little upset, which makes it's a little bit of a win for me.
There you go.
But moving on. But I needed to bring that up to A, give everybody a little bit of closure to see how it went, and B, because again, I had a lot of fun doing it, so I'm glad that everyone enjoyed it. So let's get to players that we're selling at value. Now, very important to say here. I don't know, again, I gave Addison some players. I don't know if he picked all of them, some of them, at least the first person, because I don't scroll down the sheet. This is not to say, at least for me, because I won't speak for Addison on this one, though I do plenty of times, this doesn't mean I don't like the player. Like the first player we're talking about is CJ Stroud. He's really good, like really good, and on a really good team. But man, QB4, I think, is... his ADP is 4.5. Like that's
4.
That's up there. That is too high for me. And that's more along the lines of what this is about. It's not that saying that Stroud is not a top dynasty quarterback. You're not saying that he's not a top 7 or 8 dynasty quarterback if I were going to stop and think about it. But at QB4 overall prices, or 4.5 if you want to be super technical about it, it's a little rich for my blood. But let's get to a trade and see if this really does feel in lockstep with what we're thinking. So in a 12-team Superflex, CJ Stroud was traded for Dak Prescott, Mark Andrews, and Terry McLaurin. CJ Stroud, 925.4 by himself. Dak Prescott, 610. Mark Andrews, 382. Terry McLaurin, 143 for a total of 1135. Now, this is going to be rough because in a 3-for-1, you're going to have to overpay by a lot here because these are 3 2 out of the 3 are very good assets. One of them is a fine asset, which comes with a chunk of value to it, but 3 for 1, like, and we're honestly overpaying by just a little more than Terry McLaurin. Okay, let me reword this. I would be much more likely to accept this if there was a heavy tight end premium on this. Like, if you're telling me it was 0.75 or a full extra point per reception, I might heavily think about taking the Dak and Andrews side. If there is no premium or just a 0.5, I think I want squishing the, Andrews and McLaurin into one piece before I start feeling okay about making this trade. Like, again, this is one of those, right, in theory, it is absolutely right to try and take this highly priced asset and break it, downgrade to me just a little bit, because we see how well Dak scores, but it's the other pieces that just aren't quite enough for me, because, maybe if you're starting 10, you're going to start McLaurin every week, but how do you feel about it? Because his ceiling is super capped. But as of right now, I'm keeping Stroud, because we're talking about trading these guys away. So for this offer, I'm keeping Stroud.
Interesting. So I would take the Dak Prescott side on this one. I'm a little surprised that you took Stroud. Is it because of the Andrews and McLaurin just weren't enough to
it's
lose
literally
his
those
value?
Players. Yeah.
It's just that
I need, twofold. Maybe if McLaurin was a younger wide receiver that shows more upside than McLaurin actually has, I would feel a little different, even if it's at the same value. But then again, if we want to, again, put the two of their values together and change that out for, take out Andrews and McLaurin and change it to Trey McBride, Malik Neighbors, Chris Olave, and those players are around the value of Andrews and McLaurin put together, I would probably take that pretty easily. But again, it's the 3 for 1 and what those bottom 2 pieces are that makes me a little iffy.
Gotcha. So on my end, I would take the Dak and Andrews side on this one, primarily for Mark Andrews. McLaurin is nice, but again, like you said, like he's just like a fine flex player more often than not. But I don't see a massive gap. Like there's like a 315 point difference in the analyzer between Stroud and Dak. And I don't see that. Like I would have CJ Stroud probably at like QB 7 or 8, like you said at the beginning, and I would have Dak inside my top 12. So there's only like a few quarterbacks that really separate themselves between the two, because really the main difference between them to me is age. There's an 8-year age difference.
Yeah.
So big. Dak is throwing to the best overall wide receiver of these two quarterbacks. Stroud has better weapons as a whole, but Dak has the better individual player, and has shown consistency year over year, both in terms of weekly production and year-to-year production. Like last year, I don't know if people realize like what Stroud's production was, or should I say wasn't, last year, because he was not all that dissimilar from Baker Mayfield. So last year, because I was doing research for another video that's coming out in a couple of days of top 5 fantasy weeks last year. So Dak Prescott was 3rd among quarterbacks in top 5 fantasy performances with 7. That's 2 behind Josh Allen, who was 2nd, and 3 behind Jalen Hurts, who had 10. And it was 1st. CJ Stroud was tied for 12th with 2 top 5 weeks. That is tied with Geno Smith, Derek Carr, Sam Howell, and 1 more than Joe Flacco on the year. And Flacco played half the year. Less than half the year.
You just calm down on that. You insinuating Joe Flacco means it's a bad thing. You just calm down with that.
And it's the same number as Joe Burrow as well, too. And Trevor Lawrence. So, like, there's good names in there, but, like, in top 5 quarterback weeks, most quarterbacks inside the top 20, 25 are going to have 1, if not 2, kind of like what I just said. That's less than Jake Browning. That was, less than Jared Goff, less than Brock Purdy, less than Justin Fields and Justin Herbert. Like, Stroud had a good rookie year, but it's just, like I kind of said at the beginning, like just crowning him already is really, really dangerous because he doesn't have that rushing upside. And I don't think he's all that dissimilar from Dak Prescott outside of the 8-year age difference. But if you're doing this as a contender, if you drafted CJ Stroud last year and you're looking to compete this year and you can flip him for Dak Prescott and get a top 3 tight end in Mark Andrews, I think that's pretty easy. And Terry McLaurin's just the cherry on top.
Okay, yeah, but we're pretty much on the same page. So let's move on. 16-team super flex. That's fun. CJ Stroud, a 25 first, and Kendre Miller for Joe Burrow, Jonathan Taylor, and DeAndre Swift. Fun one. CJ Stroud, 1,020. Wow. 25 first, 280. Kendre Miller, 76 for a total of 1,377. Joe Burrow, 935. Jonathan Taylor, 561. DeAndre Swift, 192 for a total of 1,688. Now, I think you said something pretty similar to what I'm about to say, but I feel like you can cross in real life. I think you can cross out Stroud and Burrow, even though you don't have to, because you definitely need to pay up for Burrow, in which case pretty easily give me the Burrow side on this one. Because if in my mind, I can cross out the two of them, I'm getting Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift for Kendre Miller and a 25 first. And that's a super win to me.
Yeah. The Swift, if you took out Swift and Kendre Miller, I think this trade makes a lot more sense, but I would still take the Joe Burrow and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. And again, this just shows you the inflated price of CJ Stroud right now compared to a lot of other quarterbacks, because he is the shiny new fun object right now. And, Joe Burrow got hurt. Dak Prescott is 30 years old. Trevor Lawrence hasn't lived up to his expectations as the number 1 overall pick.
Why
Kyler Murray
throwing that in there? Back off, man.
Oh, I was going to say, Kyler Murray is, he plays Call of Duty and had to, watch film as part of his contract and just came off of injury. So he's not good, but in reality, Stroud, I don't think is all that different than all these guys. They all could, I think in any given year, you could basically roll the dice and say, one in 2025, the order went Burrow, Stroud, Kyler, Lawrence. And then 2026, it went, Kyler, Stroud, Lawrence, Burrow. You just do that for the next 4 or 5 years, and it's not going to make a difference. So if you can capitalize on Stroud's inflated value now, then your team's going to be much better off down the road.
Yeah, Stroud is a second-tier quarterback, which, again, is a very, very good thing. But he's kind of valued as a top tier, which I'm not here for. So, again, these are the kind of moves that make sense to us. But, again, if you believe Stroud is the real deal, I feel like you would pay Bees to go move up. So if that's what you want to take from this, cool. But we're on the other side of that. Next, all right, Sam LaPorta is here. So I did an Outhouse challenge a couple of weeks ago, and someone sent a trade that they knew immediately was going to go through, because they sent me Dak and a first for LaPorta in a 0.75 premium. I think Dak probably would have gone through. Sorry. Dak and a 26 first for LaPorta and Roschon Johnson. I can't leave out Roschon. I was very upset to lose Roschon Johnson. Very upset about it. And while that was one person just trying to get LaPorta because they had 3 quarterbacks and they just went for it and it worked, because, man, that poll wasn't 100% the Dak in the first side, just to put it out there. It was it was 78-22, but it still was not 100%. But if you can find someone in your league valuing the tight end 1 at these kinds of prices, I really think it's worth looking into. Let's see what you pulled. So in a 14-team Superflex with a 0.5 tight end premium, Sam LaPorta, Javonte Williams, and the 208 for Amon-Ra St. Brown, 211, 305, and 312. All right, whatever on that. A lot of this is pretty meh. I really do like Javonte Williams. I think he will be the lead back there. What that means in this exact Denver offense, I'm not really sure anymore. But this,
you can cross off all the picks. If this was LaPorta and Javonte for Amon-Ra, I'm
never mind. 211, okay, never mind. Yeah, cross out the picks. How is that not St. Brown?
The tight end premium, I guess, is what carries weight, but it's 1.5 tight end premium, which you and I both have said multiple times is not all that different from just regular PPR scoring. You get an extra half point, but when you compare it to 0.75 or even full PPR premium, the 1.5 is nothing.
Yeah, it's usually why when you look up, especially redraft, rankings, you'll see just PPR and standard. It's not often you'll see half PPR and full PPR. You don't usually see that minutia of rankings because it doesn't really change all that much. And while I know we're saying this out loud, an extra 0.25 doesn't sound like a lot, but after a while, it really does start to add up. Plus, the more premium you add, the more people's heads kind of grow into it. Like, all right, that's a pretty big premium. They need to be worth a lot more. So yeah, this is pretty easily St. Brown, who again I have in my top tier of wide receivers at this point.
Do you want to know a crazy stat here? So in a 1.5 tight end premium, LaPorta had 80 receptions last year, right? So 1.5, that's an extra essentially 40 receptions on the season in scoring, right? Yeah. So 120 receptions. Amon-Ra last year had 119. So he basically just eliminated the premium from Sam LaPorta, on top of the fact that he's a wide receiver getting more, getting more yards per reception, getting more touchdown opportunities. Like he just like decimated the reception premium for Sam LaPorta because he himself is an absolute freak. So
yeah. I saw someone say that he played with a torn oblique.
Oh, he said that in the receiver.
I need to
show on Netflix. That he like tore his oblique in week 4 or something like that, and then played the rest of the year.
If that's real, I don't know. Like he's entering like Derrick Henry, DK Metcalf status of just not being human. Like that's.
I don't know. I don't know how you do that. He literally had like 10 100-yard games after that injury.
Now, there is something to be said with positional advantages, and what LaPorta will bring you a positional advantage because he is one of the better scoring tight ends. But again, and 14 teams does also make it a little better. But again, like that's not enough to cancel out just how much more I would rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially because like LaPorta kind of has a similar argument to Stroud right now, where it's like, he feels like a very, very valuable young asset, but like the situation with tight ends is there are actually like a lot of really good tight ends in the league right now. I don't know where they all came from, but they're all here, so like you have McBride, you have Mark Andrews still, you still have Hawkinson, even though he's coming off the injury. When he's recovered from the injury, he's going to be great. Obviously, Travis Kelce is still an absolute monster. Kyle Pitts hopefully breaks out. You have Brock Bowers coming into the league, plus all the other guys that are just really good weekly starters like Njoku and Ingram and Ferguson, So like there is all of a sudden like a lot of tight ends to where like the positional advantage of being the tight end 1, like LaPorta is not there yet with where Kelce has been for the last like half decade. So there really isn't an advantage to being the tight end 1 because tight end 1 through 5 all feel more or less the same.
Well, let's look at the next trade because it's a lot more to think about. 12-team, 1 quarterback. Sam LaPorta for Saquon Barkley and the 110. Sam LaPorta, 608.9 by himself. Saquon Barkley at the very respectable 566.8. And the 110 at 301 for a total of 867.8. So we do have what we usually like to see here. You're overpaying for the highest valued asset. And there's no tight end premium in this. Is LaPorta and Saquon being this close a little spicy for you? Or do you think they're that close?
I think when you package Saquon's age and LaPorta's difference-making ability at the onesie position, I think I would have them flipped. I would have the values flipped.
You'd have Saquon
but it's
more
a conversation.
Valuable.
Yes, I would have Saquon 50 points more valuable than LaPorta, but it would be a conversation.
Just to put it out there, Sam LaPorta's ADP is pretty much 21 and Saquon's is 24. So they're super close in the first place. And at the 110, we're talking like prime, like Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman area.
Yep. Maybe Benson.
Yeah. Like pretty good, but all right. In which case, I'm guessing you're taking Saquon here because you're valuing Saquon above LaPorta and you're going to take that rookie pick.
Yeah. I think even if you're like, oh, well, I would take LaPorta over Saquon, the first makes it like, it may not be like it may not feel like it's a first whenever you put names to it, especially in a 1 quarterback league. But, that extra player, if you're already kind of on the fence, but you get a good shot on that extra additional top 10, top 12 one quarterback asset, like that should push it over the edge for you. But like you said, I was already taking Saquon over LaPorta. So the extra first is
Yeah, I think I might be good with LaPorta over. I am good with LaPorta over Barkley, if anything, just because of the age and the positional advantage. Like this one is enough for me to sort of push them apart a little bit. But then again, you're right about your second part. That being a 110 is way more than enough for me to be like, okay, I'll figure tight end out later, and then go spend less than that 110 to go get Evan Engram.
Right. Like if it was a early to mid second, I'd probably be closer on that.
Yeah, exactly. But like we're still talking players in the range where it's more than enough to move off of it. All right, next. Okay, we're going to talk Rachaad White, and I'm good with that. Apparently, you are not happy with my Chris Olave selection.
No, I like Chris Olave, but Olave will be in a different video later on in a few days.
Oh, by the way, again, I really like Chris Olave as a wide receiver, but that quarterback situation is just holding him back enough to make me sell him at his value now and buy him back before they change the quarterbacks in a year or two. Like, okay, let's talk about Rachaad White because I'm absolutely here for this also. Rachaad White was one of those players where it's funny because what we want for our running backs is the volume. We want to know that they are going to get the ball a lot. And Rachaad White got the ball a lot. But he did not do very well when he got it. And while maybe Bucky Irving isn't like really worrisome, I think being, young and fast is enough of a worry to get Rachaad White off the field at times. And I think this is another one of those this is almost like Zamir White-ish, where it's just like, just because he's the guy there, he has this value base. But if you don't believe in the player, it's probably worth moving off of him. At least that's my assumption on why he's on this list. Did I check everything off? Did I leave anything out?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, I think one of the issues with Rachaad White is his ADP just feels a little high for me. Like he's RB13 in July, one quarterback ADP. He's RB14 on KTC, and that just like he doesn't feel all that dissimilar from a lot of other running backs that are like 8 to 10 spots below him. It's like a very long, almost like what's going on with wide receiver, where all these wide receivers kind of feel the same after like wide receiver 16 down to wide receiver 30. They all kind of feel the same. Running backs, I feel like kind of is that as well too. And Rachaad White, like you can't really have like an age argument with him because he's already 25 years old. So like a couple years of Rachaad White versus a couple years of Derrick Henry in Baltimore or a couple years of Mixon in Houston, but like those guys are cheaper just because they're older. So it feels like you could just take advantage of the fact that White has inflated value based on what he did last year. And I'm not necessarily worried about Bucky Irving, but if Bucky comes in and does take away some touches in the receiving game or something like that, like their coaches and coordinators have mentioned that Bucky kind of brings an element that they hadn't had. And I think that that's an indictment on Rachaad White and his inefficiency, who was just really just thriving on volume for fantasy.
Yeah, I grabbed a lot of Bucky in the thirds of a lot of rookie draft or late second, early thirds, whenever I can't remember anymore because it feels like it's been forever ago. Because I'm not the biggest Rachaad White fan. And again, not to say that Bucky Irving's going to come in and just win the job over him, but it might be enough. And then always the horrible thing of he's a running back. If Rachaad White gets hurt, Bucky Irving just goes in and gets the ball because they don't really have anyone else on the roster. But let's look at some trades and see how we feel about this. So 12-team Superflex. Rachaad White and Ricky Pearsall caution. Team B is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal for Deebo Samuel. Wow, this is a very 49ers trade. Rachaad White and Ricky Pearsall for Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, 25 seconds. Rachaad White at 226, Ricky Pearsall at 97 for a total of 323. Deebo, 228, George Kittle, 126, and the 25 seconds are 89 each for a total of 533. So I would take Deebo over White and give me Kittle in 2 seconds over Pearsall.
There it is. Next trade. I mean, yeah.
And Kittle over Pearsall, if there's no premium, like, because Kittle's at 125.9, Pearsall at 96.9. I think I saw like Pearsall's on the NFI, right? On the non-football injury list.
Yes, I think they did that this morning.
Or yesterday, or it's whatever. I'm not worried about that. He could literally get taken off of that at any time. So not worried about that at all. But the fact that Kittle is worth not so much more, but still more than Pearsall is a little iffy for me. But again, there's still 225 seconds to add into this, so pretty easy. Other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you I talked quick, and I know you nodded yes. So Debo over White for you?
Yeah, that one is just I would prefer the wide receiver, and I feel like we've seen Debo's ceiling being higher than Rachaad White's ceiling.
And again, that's even without the wide receiver 3 upside that he had that 1 year, like 3 years ago at this point. Even still, just then, I think normal Debo is still a higher weekly ceiling than Rachaad White.
Right. Because again, White's value last year was all based on the fact that he got all of the workload back there. Like there was nobody to contend with. It was I don't even remember who else was on it. Sean Tucker was on the team, RIP. But I think Chase Edmonds was on the team. I don't remember if Gio Bernard was still on the team or not, but
I don't think so. I legitimately don't remember anyone else touching the ball. But I did have a lot of Chase Edmonds on the back end of my rosters, and it just didn't work out to anything.
Literally, it was all
because I liked him on the Cardinals.
Yeah, exactly. So if he loses any volume this year, which he might with the addition of Bucky Irving, you got to account for the fact that I think Dave Canales has something to do with the offense resurgence that we saw last year. He's with the Panthers now. So what does this new offense for the Buccaneers look like? Which it was an offense that is kind of coming from the Sean McVay system. So it could be good for running backs, but we've seen the McVay system cycle through a few running backs, at their kind of discretion. So
hot hand, we'll call it.
Exactly. And they were the ones that went out and they drafted Bucky. So maybe they saw something in him that Rachaad White can't do, like they've mentioned a couple times. So yeah, I feel like Debo over Rachaad White is I would take Debo over White. And then like you said, Kittle over Pearsall, and you get 2 free seconds.
2 free seconds. All right. Last T. Higgins, Rachaad White, and a 25 first for Jamar Chase. Higgins in at 498, Rachaad White 349, the 25 first for 307 for a total of 1155. Jamar Chase 953. Again, overpaying for the highest asset. So here's the thing. You're going to plug in T. Higgins. You're going to get wide receiver 2 numbers. You're going to plug in Rachaad White. You're going to get, at best, probably low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2. At worst, probably low-end RB2. And you get a 25 first out of it. Man, I think I'd just rather have Jamar Chase. Like, I can't believe you're making me do this with the man's name literally hanging above my head right now. But if it was... Hold on, let's go to 349.1 in the analyzer right now. Oh man, it's a little higher, but if that was Devonta Smith, Kyron Williams, Michael Pittman, even, I would take that. Nico Collins to even go a little lower. Like, I would take.
He goes below Rachaad White.
Nico Collins at 349. No. Hold on.
Just like below like Smith and Pittman.
Below where I was talking. Hold on. Where is Rachaad White? There he is. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong settings. That's why. You have Rachaad White at 349. That's supposed to be one quarterback numbers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
hold on. Let's find Rachaad White and look for players that George Pickens. I would probably take it still. Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, I would definitely take Brooks over White. So yeah, that makes it more interesting.
Tank Dell, JSN.
If you throw another receiver in there, I'm kind of less intrigued by it because I really like going up at receiver.
Yeah.
And just packaging 2 of them. Well, I mean, you have to throw in an extra first, but if this is a 1 quarterback first and it's late because you just gave them Jamar Chase.
And again, we're showing our distaste for the one specific player, which is derailing the idea of the trade a little bit. But usually Addison's right. Upgrading at wide receiver is usually the right way to go. And I think with this specific trade, you do it. I think you get Jamar Chase for this, however much it might hurt my soul.
It's also a start 9 as well, too. Maybe I should start.
In which case, yeah, you want the studs more and more when that happens.
Yep. So, yeah, I think this is a perfect example of how to get rid of Rachaad White and move up to do it. Is you got to package him into a bigger deal and move up and upgrade somewhere else. I think it might be hard to remove Rachaad White for like 1-for-1, really, like moving White for another wide receiver or something like that. Like I think you got to get a little creative with it. But I think this is a perfect example of how to upgrade somewhere, and upgrade T. Higgins by adding Rachaad White and a late 1 quarterback first, and when you get Jamar Chase, though, Chase is fun.
Yeah, all right. But before we do head out, because that was our last trade, we have an offer in the listener league, watcher league, because this is YouTube. And
we haven't hit accept on that yet.
I left it for you because these are your boys. And I figured if you weren't going to answer it, I would just make you do it on the show. So the offer we got was we would receive Ramondre Stevenson and a 25-second for, I believe, the team we beat in the finals, for James Conner and our 26 first.
And he 100% sent this trade because he watched my video saying that I would trade Ramondre for a first.
We talked about Ramondre last week. Absolutely.
And that too. Yeah. And I made another video about it.
So it's up to you. You hit the buttons right now. You let me know what you're hitting.
Well, hold on. We'll do this again. So this is what's going on. So we are in a 12-team, 1 quarterback or 2 quarterback tight end premium. It's technically
the tight ends are.
Is it 14 team? Do we have 28 people in our league?
No.
There's 24.
24, 2 copy.
So it's technically a 12 team.
Yes.
Ramondre and is it a 26 second?
25 second.
25 second.
So we'd move up the year, which is always nice.
Yeah, but you're moving a first for a second.
Yeah, still.
Bam.
We're in a very similar situation to our talks last week.
No.
Like, this is almost identical to last week's, though. I would much greater prefer Ramondre over Connor than I was last week with Waddle and Tank. I mean, I don't dislike this trade, and I'm not really super caring about Ramondre.
So there's 2 avenues that we can take on this. We can do the same thing where we can have people vote on it, and hopefully Jim understands as we wait another couple days to hit accept on this for the content, or we could just hit accept now and let the people tell us if we're idiots.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. You want this trade? Take this trade.
Yeah. I mean, you're good with Ramondre, right? Like you.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just going to slightly hate you for losing another one of our firsts, even though you were so reluctant to get rid of your first in the other league when it's just yours. But when it's our first, you're willing just to get rid of it.
Well, to be fair, we are the champions of this league, and our team is insane. And
I know, it was just another way.
We already had Jalen Waddle in this.
it was really just a way for us to point out that we won again we won last year.
100%. The reasoning though behind this is I would like James Conner's time feels super limited, right? Like
I'm a Trey
I want him to finish out the year as the workhorse, but if he gets hurt and Trey Benson comes out and looks great, that's going to be an issue. On top of the fact that Conner is already a free agent at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So it seems like he's probably not going to re-sign. Like this could be like a Zeke Tony Pollard situation where Zeke signed somewhere else, opening up the door for Pollard. Hopefully Benson does better than what Pollard did last year as a starter, but that's kind of what we're looking at. Ramondre, you get more longevity. And so, yeah, if this is a late 26 first for a 25 second, then whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. Everyone, and we're not going to talk about this in the chat. We're not going to put it on the message board. If you are in our Watcher League and you are watching this, send us an offer. We'll pick at least one trade to throw up for another comment challenge.
Oh.
Which means make it a good offer. You want people to vote for the side you're offering. There's no point in sending a bad offer if they're just going to just choose our side. So send us an offer. We'll pick at least one. Because
I was going to say, you also want it to be a good enough offer that we decide to put it on the show.
So, yeah, there's some criteria here just to not make it crappy. So send us an offer, and we will pick at least one offer to put up next week. We'll do something similar to what we've been doing for the past 2, and we'll let the audience decide.
Boom. I like it. Outhouse challenging our Watcher League. I love it.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
But on that insane note, there's been another DLF trade show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes, Adam Hayes, Hayes _. We'll catch you next time.